So welcome, everyone. This is, we think, maybe one of our very last meetings of Manhattan Community Board 4's bylaws working group. So we were tasked as some community board members to come together to give a think to and to review our bylaws that hadn't been reviewed in several years, to just see what needed to be done to make sure that they're up to date and consistent with our procedures and with both city and state law. So my name is Katie Stokes. I am a Community Board 4 member and also one of the co-chairs of this committee. Why don't we do quick introductions? Bob, over to you.
Sure. I'm Bob Benfato. I'm the other co-chair for the working group. I'm a public member. I sit on the the Clinton Hell's Kitchen Land Use Committee. And happy to be here. Frank.
Great.
Hi, I'm Frank Zubiak, a regular member of Community Board 4, co-chair of the Business License Permits Committee, and sit on the Clinton Hell's Kitchen Land.
I did the same thing.
We all seem to be forgetting what committees we sit on. Thank you, Frank. Alice.
Hi, my name is Alice Wong. I'm a community board member and I serve in the transportation and the waterfront committee.
Marvelous. And Roberta.
Hi, Roberta Barnett, a member of the Waterfront Parks Environment and Housing, Health, and Human Services.
Great. And welcome to Rodney, who is listening in today. And thank you to Jesse for getting us organized. Now, as you all may remember, sort of what we had discussed on Monday of this week was that we were going to sort of take a look at this document, and that we're hoping that today we can discuss any sort of last minute changes, and then we're going to vote on whether or not we think that we have a complete document that's ready to be referred to the executive committee. So with that, Roberta, could you pull up on the screen? Does that work for you? Our most recent version? If not, we can have somebody else try it. Would that work, Roberta? Here she goes. Cool.
Sorry, I was saying yes, but I was pulling it up, and so I wasn't muting myself whilst I was pulling it up.
Gotcha. All right. So Roberta, I'm hoping you could, there are a couple pages, a couple little issues that I know of that I think we should discuss. So could you go to page 9 first? And then obviously, if there's any other issues that come up, let me know. So I just wanted to flag for folks that this language at the top of page 9 is what we had discussed previously, which is adding under the responsibilities of the first vice chairperson, that they're going to be responsible for the public session. And frankly, I just changed the word at to the word near. So near the beginning of each regular monthly board meeting, because again, it's not the very first thing, but it's somewhere near the beginning. So anyway, I think unless anybody has any questions about this, I just wanted to flag that we did add this language as we had discussed previously. And then can you go to page 12? Because I do have a question about the language on page 12. Let's see, where are we here? About quorum. So, nope, keep going closer to the bottom of the page. It's some new language that's highlighted. There you go. So this language says a quorum shall be a majority of the appointed voting members of the board, as described in the New York State Open Meetings Law. This strikes me as, I don't know why there's a reference to the appointed voting members, as if for quorum purposes, there's a distinction between different kinds of voting members.
Aren't the elected officials ex officio members? Did I read that somewhere in here?
Yes, but they're non-voting members, it says.
Oh, I see. You're talking about appointed in voting. Okay.
So, yeah. So for, again, just for purposes of quorum, this just strikes me as odd language, frankly.
Don't need appointed, I don't think.
Right? So I think we could like ditch appointed, but then I just thought, like, should we just say quorum is as set forth in the New York State Open Meetings Law, or do we want to clarify?
I think you should clarify it just in case someone doesn't know. Because it's not always half. In the bid world, it's a third. You got a quorum.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd like to keep a majority.
Okay, so, all right, we'll say it's a quorum shall be a majority of, and can't we even just get rid of voting? Well, it's because they're members of the board.
Can I ask a question? I'm sorry, I just don't know, where are we in the? What section are we in? We're in the,
We are in Article 9, at the bottom of Article 9, and the title of Article 9, Roberta, you want to scroll up and then we can see it there?
Is it 9? It looks like it's
Oh,
4.
Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say 4.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, sorry.
Article 4, the last subsection.
And this is under, I guess, is that under election of officers?
Wait, never mind.
under-
It is 5. It's board meetings, and then
Five.
the end of section of
okay.
Article 5.
Okay.
I think you need voting because they're public members and ex officio members. It could get
that's true.
confusing
Yeah,
as to what's
Yeah,
the
I
quorum.
agree.
Right, okay, all right, fair enough. So then we'll take out appointed and it shall be a quorum shall be a majority of the voting members of the board as described in the New York State Open Meetings Law. Now, to your point, Roberta, you'd said something about like, should we clarify about in person?
I think that since we added the open meetings law tie-in, it's likely unnecessary because that
yeah, I
does.
thought that's why we
Yeah,
stated.
and you have your own policy now anyway that you can refer to.
Yeah, so I don't,
Well, wait, the quorum doesn't change, right? The quorum is always a majority. It's how you satisfy the quorum that's going to.
Or satisfy
Quorum is,
who may
a quorum
vote.
is always 20. I mean, if we're at 50 people, a quorum is always 26, right?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Right. So what changes is under what circumstances someone participating virtually can be counted as in attendance for purposes of the quorum. And that's what was recently changed by the city.
That's
The
and
city.
that's why I thought we just added, we thought it'd be easier just to add this refer to the New York State Open Meeting Law.
Yeah.
yes, except I here's my issue, and maybe I'm just being weird, and feel free to tell me that I am being. I feel like we need a few more words here because it seems like, so a quorum is a majority of the voting members of the board. And then the question is, who is counted as present? Right? And so, and then I think we almost have to say, people, members of the board who are not physically present, but who qualify under the New York State Open Meetings Law can also be counted for quorum purposes. Or, I know that was said so poorly. But I guess I just feel like we have to specify here that this is referring to people who are physically present. Except in a limited circumstance where non-physically present people qualify as present under the New York State Open Meetings Law. Because as described in the New York State Open Meetings Law, it's not our.
I understand you're
Yeah,
saying that
okay.
it's not defining who is.
It's not defining
voting
majority,
member.
it's defining who's present.
So you
Or-
could say by the bylaws of Manhattan Community Board 4 and the New York State Open Meetings Law.
A quorum shall be a majority of the voting members of the board. What if we said who are physically
Wait,
present?
isn't that period? Isn't a quorum always a majority? What the law gets into is how you satisfy who satisfies the quorum.
Yeah, the quorum is always the majority, 50+1.
Right, so maybe, I mean, a quorum, I believe right now, if I understand it, is that a quorum is a majority of the voting members of the board who are physically present.
No, a quorum is based on who's on the board. There are two concepts. There's
Oh,
the
that's true.
quorum
Yeah.
and there's satisfying the quorum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But see, if you're gonna say in person, right, we just spent 2 years not following that rule, right? Right, so we were allowed not to follow that rule. The open meetings law allows us not to follow that rule when an emergency order is enacted that we.
Right. But I feel like we're in a way that I feel like in this particular sentence, we're being so brief with our words that we're not actually explaining in a helpful way what the facts are.
So do you want to say a quorum shall be a majority of in-person and virtual voting members as described in this New York State meeting law? So you're acknowledging.
Or as allowed or as permitted in the New York State Open Meetings Law. But hold on, actually, but to Frank's point, maybe I'm mixing up 2 points again, because again, it's a majority of everybody. That's quorum. So maybe only 13 people show up, and that's not going to be quorum because you have to have a majority.
You need 26 people.
You need 26 people.
Unless there's an EO, unless you've got 20, that the 13 more people you need all have disabilities.
Or it could also be that their vacancies.
You're back. Well,
I thought that's why we were.
That's why we kept it simple. Just it's a majority, and then see the New York State Open Meetings Law as to how to satisfy it.
Yeah. Just you're again confusing the two things. If only 13 people show up, are present as defined in the law, then there's no quorum because a quorum is 26.
Right.
But this thing is titled just quorums, not satisfying quorums. So I think the real question is, are we going to add another sentence about how a quorum is met or satisfied or whatever the term of art is?
Yeah.
So maybe to your point, or all right, let me think about this for a second. What if we said a quorum shall be a majority of the voting members of the board, period.
Right.
As to the question, if members have to be present or not, that issue is determined as set forth in the New York State Open Meetings Law.
Well, how about just, satisfaction of the quorum, is determined by whatever law.
New York State Open Meeting.
Yeah, and I guess, we also have our own policy, but I guess our own policy doesn't go to quorum.
Yeah, our policy, I think.
No, it does.
It does, actually, it does go to quorum, actually, for committee meetings and for.
Yeah, but the policy is simply, part of it is, the policy is mandated by the law. The law said that we had to create our policy on that. So all it is a regurgitation of the law.
Yeah.
And that we just voted that we agreed with the law. So we followed the law. So
Okay.
we could reference the policy. I think we do it somewhere else in the document, but
Yeah.
I think
I liked this makes sense now. Okay, so I like what you said, Frank. So we'll put a period after the word board, and then we'll say satisfaction
Of the quorum is described in the New York State Open Meetings Law.
Yeah, is set forth in the New York State Open Meetings Law and in our corresponding board policy. Does that work?
Yeah.
So after the word.
But do we need the policy? Our policy can't change the open meetings law.
No,
That's true.
I don't think you need it. I think it just
agree.
like Jesse said, the policy is just you
Consistent anyway,
codifying the state open meeting law.
Yeah. So can you put, after the word board, so at the beginning of the second sentence, Roberta, can you put satisfaction? Say it again, Frank, you said it so nicely.
You know, why it's satisfaction of the quorum,
Is
You
set
never-
forth.
Or is as set forth?
is set forth, yeah. Oh boy, there are too many lawyers on this call. It's not really satisfaction. It's sort of like the method of satisfy, you know, how the quorum is satisfied. I don't know if this shorthand satisfaction bothers anybody.
Doesn't bother me.
I think it's okay the way it is.
I think it's fine.
Okay, so a quorum shall be a majority of the voting members of the board, period. Satisfaction of the quorum is,
It's set forth in the,
I would say satisfaction of the quorum is as set forth in the New York State Open Meetings Law, period. Okay, we're done. Thank you. Didn't mean to make it so difficult. Okay, and then can we scroll down to page 14? There we are. So this is, I think Frank, you are the one who highlighted this, that this is simply the part in the bylaws where we're saying this is how our board meetings are run. And, you know, we adopt the agenda, we adopt our minutes, there are the reports, and then it's committee business. And it originally said here that there's like a summary of all of our committee activity, which isn't actually what happens, and an explanation of the resolutions. And then it says we vote right then, before old business and new business. And Frank, as you pointed out, no, we don't. So I suggested, what if we change D to say, you know, that's where we discuss letters, resolutions, and other business proposed by any committee, that, you know, that's where they're discussed in the order set forth on the agenda. And then we have a new G after old business and new business, and then we have voting. And then we adjourn.
adjournment should be an H then.
Yeah, that's true. I meant to, yeah, thank you.
Well, actually, at the live meetings, and I don't know if we're going to go back to doing this, we would vote after every item, but it was just a show of
Yeah.
hands. And there'd only be a roll call if it looked close. But actually, there wouldn't even be a roll call. Someone would a couple of people would count the raised hands.
Mhm.
And then there were the voting sheets. The only times the secretaries did a roll call was for ULURPs.
Yeah.
Well, I've only ever, been in a meeting since COVID started, so I don't know the way it was done before.
Yeah, these are just all in favor. Anyone opposed? That's how,
And that would be after each letter, you said?
after each presentation, yeah.
Yeah,
They do
unless
a
they're
separate vote.
bundled.
Yeah,
That's
that's where the
why.
expression with bundling came from.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why there's that mysterious term you have heard.
Bundle.
I keep using it and I don't realize that many people don't know what it means.
So,
What, going back to the original language of committee business,
Yep.
if you delete it at this time, it may cover every way we do it, because even now we do vote on them in the order set forth in the agenda. We just don't
Yeah.
do them after every item. So if you just letters, resolutions, and other business proposed by any committees are voted on in the order set forth in the agenda. Or
I agree, yeah.
Well,
Or
we should
dis-
also say something about being
discussed and voted on if you want.
Each letter has a number,
Yeah.
both in the order of the letters. One,
Okay.
two, 4.
So then are we maybe okay with deleting that first sentence, which I deleted, because we don't do summaries of committee activity anyway? So if the language reads, letters, resolutions, and other business proposed by any committees are discussed. And then why don't we say are discussed and voted on?
Yeah,
The order
Delete
set
at this
forth
time.
on the agenda. Yeah.
just get rid of the at this time.
Yeah. And add back in and voted on.
Yeah. And that would cover.
And then you're saying, and then get rid of the new G. Who cares?
Right.
And then keep a German G.
Okay, so Roberta, stick with me here, kiddo. Can you delete the first sentence that's already crossed out entirely? Just delete it.
Okay, I am going to, instead of doing that, so we have a record of the changes,
Oh,
I am going to just say accept,
okay,
and then it will
And then-
reject anything that we're not going to include.
okay. And then in the next sentence where we say proposed by any committees are discussed, and then add the words and voted on after the word discussed. Are discussed and voted on. Yep. And then delete the words at this time.
Yeah.
Yep. And then you can delete Frank's language that's in the brackets. Because that was just flagging the issue for us. And then you can
Mhm.
also delete my new G about voting. Yep. I think that does the trick there. Okay. So those were the substantive issues that I was aware of. And then I had started going in to try and clean up, making board members always uppercase, that sort of thing, but I still have to double check that. But I don't know of any other substantive issues. Oh, and I did add in the hyperlinks at the beginning. Has anybody seen any other issues that they had or anything else that they wanted to raise?
I don't know what we're looking at right now, but in the last half an hour, I added 2 items. And I
Oh.
don't have the reference, I don't know if you have this, Roberta, on what we're showing.
Yeah, I think it should be. I think it's further up. I think it's on an earlier
In the
page.
beginning, one was in the beginning and one was towards the end.
Okay.
One was just the introduction of 2 adjectives being the board members.
Yeah, I think it was more grammatical, right, Bert, than anything else?
Well, I had an intention. It wasn't just grammatical. I mean, there was a policy behind it. Yeah. Right, there it is. Members are expected to vote on issues in accordance with their sincere understanding. I mean, their informed understanding and sincere beliefs. I just didn't also like best
Oh.
understanding and best interest. I didn't like the 2 bests. But I don't think best describes what we're really talking about. Informed understanding and sincere beliefs of what is the best interest of the neighborhood, the community.
All right.
It's
Yes,
more
I-
than just grammar, Katie.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I hadn't realized, noticed the suggestion of the new word. Sorry about that.
And
And I guess my only question is that then like creating an obligation on board members to become informed?
yes. Yes, I would like board members to be informed of what they're talking about and what they're voting on. I think they should be.
Everybody else comfortable with that?
I mean, we're not giving anybody an exam,
Yeah.
to make sure they are, but we're just saying we'd like them to be.
Okay.
You're setting up an expectation.
Yeah.
Yes,
And in a
And
sense,
then-
it's a subjective standard for
Yeah.
people. People can
Plenty of-
decide.
Yeah, many people know nothing about something and tell you they're an expert, so. And they're
What are you
sincere in
talking
it when they
about?
tell you.
And then actually in this same section, Roberta, you can go ahead and delete the word best. Just take it right out of there because we've accepted that. All right. And then you said your other,
The other one was all of a sudden, I don't know why I didn't see it before. It just jumped out at me. It was about talking about speakers at the public session, and it described speakers as citizens.
Whoa.
I understand that kind of generic,
Mhm.
talking about democracy and the citizens, and da. But there's a technical issue about a citizen. We don't ask people who are speaking, are you a citizen? Or are you
Right.
not? Because if you're not a citizen, you can't speak. We don't do that. And
Yeah.
I don't think we want to do that. We want
fir-
people who want to speak.
Yeah.
We don't
The
ask
first,
citizens.
the first draft of this years ago was done by John Doswell.
Well,
Okay,
I
so
know John's brothers. I'll mention that to him. Then.
so why don't we
I'm gonna see
change the
them next
word?
weekend. We're having a barbecue.
That's a great catch, Bart. Do you have a suggestion as to afford the
I
maximum
put just,
opportunity?
I think I said, rather than saying citizens, people who are speaking.
I just say community members. Isn't that
No,
what
it's
it's
not
for?
referring to committee members. It's
No, I said community.
community members,
Yeah,
public.
but if someone, wants to speak and they're, not a member of the community in some regard, but they have an interest in the project,
Don't call them
Actors Equity
speakers.
comes and talk. Yeah, I would call them the speakers. Yeah.
Yeah, to afford the maximum opportunity to all.
To all speakers, since we already called the thing time limits of speakers,
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
same language.
great. Good catch.
And I hope it's not used anyplace else, citizen.
I never noticed, but I didn't notice that. I didn't notice that one either.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'll look now that Roberta has taught me how to use the search function, the find function.
Exactly.
It is not. You can see, I just did the find.
I
There are
see.
no more.
There are
No
no
more
more
citizens?
citizens.
Okay,
Good. Great.
thank you, thank you.
Hey, you, Bert. Good catch. And you're right. That's definitely more than grammar. Okay. I know this has gone on a little bit longer than the short meeting we promised. So are there any other questions, wording improvements, anything else we want to potentially add here? Otherwise, I would take a motion to approve this draft as reviewed, with the understanding that any last consistency changes will be made over the weekend, making the word board member uppercase and periods, that sort of thing.
Fine.
So
Okay.
are we cool with that?
Yep.
Okay, can I have a motion to that effect?
Motion to approve.
Yay, all right. So how about Alice, you made the motion, Bert, you seconded,
I'll
that fair?
second it.
Okay, then all those in favor, raise your hand.
Aye.
Yay, look at us. Great. Then Jesse's happy we're making his weekend. Yay. Okay, so Jesse, I will do the last go round through this version. And then I think one of the things, just as a sort of procedural matter we discussed, and maybe Bob, I can reach out to you by Monday, but I think what would be helpful, we're not going to flag every single little change in this between this version and the last one, but I think what would be helpful to the executive committee is to sort of highlight like the any substantive ones, right? And so that's the version I'm going to try and come up with, right, is just with yellow highlights of things that they might want to think about or reflect on.
Oh, can we, are the old and the new ones in incompatible formats? Could we just do a red line?
Sort of. Yeah. I was just thinking about I would basically just go and add them back into the old one personally. And then if you download as a Word and then convert that to a PDF, you have visibly all of the track changes, which may make sense. I am happy to have this conversation
Offline
Yeah.
with me, Roberta? You're the best.
via text message, phone, email,
Okay,
a different.
Okay.
I think
Martha.
it's actually safer because, you know, no one can accuse us of I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
Someone may think our using he, and them is an important change and we didn't flag it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this way it'll show everything.
Okay, fair enough. And then, so we will work on that. And then, yeah, we'll be able to get it to you, Jesse, you know, whatever, by mid next week, so you can circulate it to everybody. And all right. So I know this is going to be some heartbreaking news, team, but I believe that we are now going to say that this is the end of the working group, of our bylaws working group. It's been an important time for us to come together, but it's coming to an end now.
And, well, leave it open just in case when we go to exec, they throw it back at us.
Yeah,
Go
that's
back
true.
to the
That's
drawing
true.
board
We
and
may all have to come back together again.
rethink
But
a
hopefully not,
certain
because
thing.
they'll only have about 30 days to circulate it out to folks. But that's a good point, Bob. A very good point. All right. Well, I really appreciate everybody's attention to this. And it's been lovely working with you all. Okay.
Thank all of you.
All right.
Well,
You are-
And everyone.
Following our
Katie, you
bylaws,
got
can
two-
someone making a motion to adjourn?
Oh, yes, the most important.
I can't, I'm co-chair. I
I
can't make a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Lovely.
My God.
And Frank, what did you say?
Hey, Katie, if you got 2 minutes, you can stay on and I can tell you about what I was wrestling with all the pesky capitalization issues.
Perfect. It's a deal. I'll
We don't
definitely
keep
stay
doing them
on.
in different ways.
Okay.
Bye,
All right. Thanks,
everybody.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Stop the video, Jesse.
Okay. Hold on 1 second.